I told you can't trust these. Now, Puffy done kill Tupac, man.
50 Cent went on stage last year and said this.
Maybe I said Puffy because he got Tupac.
You know, and I know, that everyone believes that Diddy was involved in both these shootings and had a direct involvement in your brother's death. That is what the streets have said for 27 years. That's why 50 Cent said it. That's why Eminem has said similar stuff. Would you be comfortable saying that you believe Diddy had nothing to do with it?
No, I wouldn't be comfortable saying that because I don't know. If you look at all the theories, the theory involving him is quite high on the list.
Ron, any comments? Any comments on the trial so far? Any opening statements?
He's having his day.
He's having his day?
He's having his day. We trust the justice system.
Thank you, sir.
God is good.
Netflix's latest docuseries offers a sharp, reflective reassessment of Tupac Shakur's life and tragic death, stripping away rumor to prioritize context over blame. Rather than making accusations, it explores the social pressures of the 1990s, the volatile cultural climate, and decades of speculation. Industry names long mentioned in public debate resurface, not as targets, but as part of a broader historical frame. By revisiting unanswered questions with balance and evidence, the series deepens understanding and delivers a compelling perspective on hip-hop's most enduring mystery.
Know what the truth.
Yeah, check this out. We don't talk about things that are nonsense. We don't even entertain nonsense, my brother. So we're not even going to go there, with all due respect, but I appreciate you as a journalist asking. Thank you.
Because you listen, 7 years ago, I'd have been like, yo, did you hire somebody to kill Pac? But no, you do it like a journalist.
Yeah, no, I mean, we wouldn't even get into nonsense like that. You know what I'm saying?
In Combs, The Reckoning, the filmmakers trace Sean Diddy Combs' rise to hip-hop power, focusing on the ambition, calculation, and vision that shaped his empire long before recent legal controversies emerged. The series revisits his increasingly strained relationship with Tupac Shakur, a bond described by Tupac's cousin William Lassane as tense and steadily unraveling during the peak of the East Coast-West Coast rivalry. Through candid interviews and archival context, the documentary captures mounting pressure, fierce competition, and shifting alliances surrounding both figures. Rather than offering definitive conclusions, it re-examines the events, lingering doubts, and unanswered questions tied to Tupac's 1996 Las Vegas killing, explaining why this chapter of hip-hop history remains influential and debated today by audiences worldwide.
Former president of Bad Boy, Kirk Burroughs, who alleged during this time, Diddy had him hiring a whole bunch of people and getting cars to drive to Las Vegas. And he is now very curious into why Diddy wanted to do this. And he said, in his opinion, he now believes that Diddy was behind.
Williams speaks with notable candor, portraying the friction between the two artists as deeply personal, prolonged, and emotionally charged. From his viewpoint, he suggests Diddy may have felt increasingly threatened by Tupac's growing influence and unapologetic creative independence, a shift that disrupted the existing balance of power. Rather than assigning blame, William encourages audiences to examine the broader climate surrounding the 1994 New York shooting, a moment shaped by chaos, pressure, and incomplete information as events unfolded rapidly. He questions whether anyone involved truly grasped the full picture at the time. Supporting this perspective, music veteran Gene Dale has also reflected on the competitive weight between the two men, noting that the rivalry magnified stress during a volatile era and intensified tensions.
Tupac blueprint and changed Biggs and Bad Boy in image. I get around, talked about how fly you was, how many girls you mess with, how many cars you drive, how much money you got, what you willing to do. He took his image. Pac was the first one on the scene wearing Versace shirts. He went and got the same Versace shirts Pac had. Which, alright, some dudes would do that. You would never catch me wearing something else, something that somebody else got. He was knocking down all the women that he thought Pac was knocking down. And what I mean is having sex with them. Why would you want to have sex with women you know for sure a dude that was once cool with you was dead.
Alongside Williams' comments, Tupac's brother has stressed that the circumstances of Tupac's death still warrant a serious, thorough reexamination. He argues the discussion must move beyond surface narratives and instead review every angle with care, from the broader climate of the time to the web of people and decisions shaping that era. His aim is not sensationalism, but a clearer, more complete account that cuts through decades of noise and brings the story closer to truth and lasting public understanding.
Saying that you want to see how serious the Vegas PD is going to take this case, because Keefe D is people that he name dropped that you want to see if they're going to investigate.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I'm curious to see how they plan to deal with the case, because he, in his own admissions, mentions other people. You know, are they going to say what happened to these people? Yes, Puffy being one of them. I don't know where that's going to lead, but I do believe there were accomplices, and I don't think all of them have been looked at. So, you know, because over the years, you know, it's a lot of years, you know, amongst the family, we talk, we want to figure it out too. We thinking certain things too. So, you know, we're waiting to see if we can trust this process. I feel like it's bigger because I haven't heard anything about that part of the story from the prosecutor's office. I haven't heard anything about Puffy from the prosecutor's office, even though Keefe D implicates him on these videos that they claim they're using to indict him. Even you got a Crip affiliate from somewhere, but you still not gonna talk about the guy that he mentions by name on the thing. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's exhausting. You know, or you know, I'm waiting to see how far they go, because that's what everybody's talking about. That's what everybody's talking about. What about Puffy? You know, so it would be weird that the prosecutor's office wouldn't know and address it. That's why I don't know whether to trust this shit or not.
He later shared that in Tupac's final moments, his brother seemed desperate to convey something important, as though fighting to release a final message. That memory still haunts him and drives his pursuit of answers, strengthening his belief that the unresolved questions around Tupac's death remain deeply emotional and impossible to ignore for him always.
Condition, because you got so many conflicting stories, right? You got some people that say that, you know, Tupac was moving in the hospital, he was, you know, talking in the hospital, but you being there, from your point of view, how was Tupac condition?
By the time I got there, remember I was coming from LA, so by the time I got there, he had tubes in his throat, in his nose, in his mouth, so he ain't talk to me. Not verbally. He was conscious. He was trying to talk. He did want to talk, but he didn't actually verbalize any words. I always, you know, that's one of my, gonna be one of the biggest mysteries in my life, because he was trying to tell me something. He was trying so hard. He was shaking the bed. He was looking at me, you know, with his big old eyes, you know, and I know he was trying to tell me something, but I don't know.
Something else I want to ask you, because I think it would be appropriate before we get off the Vegas thing, last thing, because I know I did an interview with Napoleon, and they all gave me their reasons why Afeni pulled the plug because of his condition, but I mean, it would be more appropriate since you was his brother. Afeni, her decision to pull the plug on him, from your point of view, what made her pull the plug, respectfully?
Because he had already flatlined a couple of times. And she didn't want him to keep going through that. I think it was like twice before she, you know, let him go. And that's reasonable. You know what I mean? When I was, when I found out,
Former Bad Boy executive Kirk Burroughs later admitted that the tension between Tupac and Diddy likely shaped the chaos of that period far more than he understood at the time, a realization William has echoed with hindsight. He recalls the relationship steadily fraying as Diddy accelerated Biggie's rise, while Tupac pursued an independent path driven by goals that no longer aligned. From Williams' view, Diddy once hoped for a closer creative partnership with Tupac, but diverging ambitions transformed that expectation into rivalry, intensifying an already volatile environment. That pressure framed Tupac's 1994 trip to Quad Studios, where he was unexpectedly attacked and seriously wounded, an event that became a lasting flashpoint in hip-hop history. Although Diddy, Biggie, and others were reportedly in the building, investigators never linked them to the shooting, and Diddy has consistently denied any role. Still, Tupac's later doubts, reflections, and public statements kept speculation alive. Gene Deal has argued the incident reflected the era's fierce rivalries. By presenting conflicting perspectives, the series shows how ambition, loyalty, and competition collided in the 1990s, shaping a chapter.
Puffy knew Tupac was going to get robbed at Quad Studios?
Well, I don't think I'm not going to say he knew exactly he was going to get robbed, but he knew he was going to get dealt with. Because he was up there with Andre Harrell, and he was with Jimmy Henchman. And even though I think Pac may have owed Jimmy some money, or he was being disrespectful with Jimmy, and Jimmy ain't the type of dude that you was going to be disrespectful for, because he had some real wolves. And Jimmy was about it himself. You know what I mean? So now, in that essence, Puff is up there in the office with him. They know they about to deal with Pac, you know what I'm saying? I don't know the extent that Jimmy told him what they was gonna do to Pac, or he's gonna get dealt with or whatever like that. But I know Puff had a whip the little.
Years later, in 2011, Dexter Isaac publicly claimed involvement in the 1994 Quad Studios shooting, alleging he acted at the direction of a music industry figure he said held influence at the time. His statement added another complex layer to an already tangled story. However, like many claims surrounding the incident, it has never been independently verified and remains part of a wider mix of memories, accusations, and speculation. The episode underscores how deeply disputed this moment in hip-hop history remains. Jimmy Henchman has firmly denied any role, stating he had no connection to the Quad Studios attack, reinforcing how conflicting accounts and unresolved questions continue to cloud the narrative and sustain debate.
They know that he had another bracelet that was like a bicycle chain with charms on it, right? Just gonna say that, all right? He had the diamond chain on with the chain with diamonds at each length going through it, right? He had a big stone on the diamond ring and a smaller stone, one for $35,000 and the one for $20,000, all right? So even Stretch that did this shit, I took his bracelet too, and changed it and put my man's name on it and took off the name on it. So motherfuckers claiming that this even
so hold on, homie.
Claiming that he was Tupac's stepdaddy wrote me and wanted me to have my people meet him and give him back the chain and shit, talking about some redemption shit. You know, them niggas ain't
so hold on, hey Dex. So that day that happened, November 30th, 1994, it wasn't just Tupac and Freddie Nichols. Stretch was with them too?
Stretch was with them too, yeah. Stretch set the whole shit up. He was in cahoots. He was giving us play-by-play where they was at. On their way there, he was in communication with Jimmy and shit. You know, Jimmy promised them two big eggs and shit.
Wow, so he sold Pac out for a quarter brick, basically.
Basically. Yeah.
And
Boy too.
Wow.
Jimmy Henchman has repeatedly and firmly denied any involvement, insisting he had no link to the Quad Studios incident. His unwavering stance adds another layer to the conflicting accounts, highlighting how much of this chapter in hip-hop history remains unresolved, uncertain, and continuously debated by the public.
There was a big frame picture, photograph on one of your walls, and it had Tupac on it wearing a Henchman Entertainment t-shirt. Now, a few years ago, there was a guy named Dexter Isaac that came forward who claimed that you were connected to the Tupac shooting. Do you have anything to say about that?
No, 100%. I've never ducked from answering any Tupac questions, which I could understand if I don't know how Quad Studio morphed into, like, I was in Vegas and was part of the shooters that actually ended in his demise. And let me say, me and Tupac were friends, and me and him were friends. I had nothing against Tupac. I liked him. He was younger than me. I'm sure that he looked up to me. There's many moments that me and Pac had that were very intimate, where he talked to me about things that he was afraid of, or things that he loved to do, and all of those kind of things. Here it is, you have a prosecutor and you have a guy who's in jail for life. When they pulled Dexter down to interview him in regards to what he knew about me and Tupac and so on and so forth, I have no doubt at this point that Dexter probably was the guy or one of the assailants on Tupac. But Dexter's story just doesn't make sense. Dexter tells a story that I wanted a ring for my fiance, and so I tell him to get the diamond ring from Tupac so I can give it to my fiance, and so on and so forth. He tells this magical story. The only person that can believe such a story is Todd Kaminsky, who was the prosecutor who was trying to make something out of nothing.
Keith D recalled being deeply shaken by rising tensions, saying the feud around Tupac escalated sharply after the release of Hit 'Em Up. He described a volatile, unpredictable atmosphere where conversations carried pressure and the stakes felt dangerously high. The documentary uses these first-hand reflections to show how fiercely competitive hip-hop had become, capturing fear, rivalry, and instability surrounding the genre's most powerful figures, and illustrating how the culture was pushed toward an increasingly combustible, high-risk breaking point overall.
Make it clear, man, when Puffy came to LA, you used to give him protection, right? From the Southside Crips, because he was scared of Suge Knight?
It speaks for itself, my brother. He was playing chess, and I guess we was playing checkers, cuz.
So he was really scared of Suge Knight like that, yo?
That's what it looked, that's what it sounded like, yeah.
Beyond the controversy surrounding Tupac Shakur, seeing Diddy Combs has long faced speculation tied to other high-profile moments, reflecting relentless public scrutiny across his career. The documentary examines how these narratives, accurate or not, shaped an era defined by tension, rivalry, and intrigue, revealing how rumor and perception became powerful forces within a fiercely competitive, pressure-heavy hip-hop culture during the 1990s media cycle worldwide debates.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so there's, Keith D claims that there is this ongoing conversation. It happens on 3 different occasions, but most specifically when he and Puffy are at this place called Greenblatt's Deli on Sunset. And they're there. Things have spiraled out of control. Puffy's really concerned about, the welfare of his safety. And he tells Keith D, man, I just need you to take care of this situation with Suge and Tupac. It's out of control. Tupac's on vinyl talking about killing all of our kids when they grow up. And, it's just, it's just become this really serious conflict. And he says, I just need you to take care of him. And Keith D's like, that's no problem. That's what we do. And so an agreement was made, according to Keith D, for an amount of money. And they kind of just let it go at that point in time. But of course, Keith D knows in the back of his mind, this is what Puffy wants done. And they all end up out in Las Vegas. Suge's out there.
Before you say that, there's a couple things I want to talk about for Vegas. So when you say that Keefe got offered an amount of money, according to him, was there a dollar amount?
Yeah, so there was a dollar amount. But I think that, the nuances of this conversation are that, like, now I'll give you $1 million, whatever it takes. It's like exaggerated speech. But of course, when we interview Keefe D, he's like, yeah, that's the agreement amount, was $1 million.
So according to Keefe, he's claiming that Puffy offered him $1 million to kill Suge or Tupac?
Both of them. Yeah, both their names came up. And according to Keefe D, he says, Tupac's put himself on the list by all the talking that he was doing. But it was really about Suge because it was Suge's muscle.
Kirk Burroughs reflected on the fragmented, confusing circumstances surrounding the night Tupac Shakur was shot, noting that separate travel plans to the Mike Tyson fight added complexity to an already chaotic situation. The series revisits Keefe D's account of what followed, while emphasizing that Sean Diddy Combs has repeatedly denied involvement and was never considered a suspect by Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. Moving beyond that single night, the documentary explores deeper rivalries and pressures shaping Tupac and Diddy's relationship, depicting a volatile blend of ambition, competition, and nonstop scrutiny that kept hip-hop on edge and continues to fuel debate decades later worldwide today now.
That Diddy paid him $1 million to try to take out Tupac and Suge Knight. Investigators early on already zeroed in on Keefe D because he is the uncle of Orlando Anderson, who was the main suspect in Tupac's unaliving. During this time, they believe that Keefe D was also in Vegas, and this is things that we have heard him say over the years in his multiple interviews, and one reason why he's on trial for the unaliving of Tupac. But then investigators really started to get curious when they found out that Keefe D was at the Peterson Museum the night that Biggie was unalived. Back in 1997, at the height of this investigation, police actually raided Keefe D's house for gang activity, and they seized one of the vehicles that were at his house because it matched the Chevy Impala description of the person who drove away after Biggie was unalived.
Keefe D was a shot caller for the Southside Crips and the uncle of Orlando Anderson. It was determined that Keefe D had been in Las Vegas along with his nephew Orlando the night Tupac was shot. Additionally, Keefe D's name had come up in the original Biggie investigation when it was discovered that he was at the party at the Peterson and he had access to a Chevy Impala.
After Tupac was shot, there was rumors on the street that Bad Boy Records owed the Southside Crips $1 million.
After seizing Keefe D's vehicle and raiding his house for gang activity, this is when investigators would first try to question Keefe D if he had any involvement in Biggie's unaliving. And at this point in time, he really didn't talk, and he told them that they were barking.
I know she's not lying, because she had no reason to lie. First, she told me she saw somebody doing something to him, and she walked in and she thought, he didn't, he never said nothing. He didn't even acknowledge her. So she's thinking she's under the radar. Next thing, she's hanging out in Miami, and, she comes back and says she don't know what happened, and she woke up, and so,
What did she say she saw?
Someone giving him head. That's as far as I'll go, and then you can do the math.
Were they famous? Did she say they were famous?
Oh, no, they wasn't famous. They was an assistant working with her. Yeah. So.
An assistant. I want to guess, but I'm not.
She didn't tell me who no, it's not somebody that you would know. It was somebody that, she came there, she worked doing photography and, some type of media work where they shot ads and things like that. They were there to work, and she walked in the wrong bathroom and caught the wrong thing.
Oh, wow.
So, if she got drugged, it probably was some videotapes made to tell her to shut the hell up and don't repeat what she said.
Tupac's death is not the documentary's sole focus, as it also turns a critical eye toward Diddy's relationship with Biggie, prompting questions about how simple or authentic that bond really was. Voices close to both artists suggest the truth was far more layered than public images implied, exposing a complicated mix of loyalty, ambition, and underlying tension that defined one of hip-hop's most iconic and closely watched partnerships.